This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Stephanie, Wolfric, Natasha, Sophia, Garotica, Vance, Cody, Boeasy, Jeremy, Bruder, Ali, Nathan, Jennifer with the PH, Mr. Ragebomb, Libby, Wes, Dreskel, Aaron, Danielle, Kristen, Tia, Lauren, Jonathan, Kate, Alex, Isaac, and Karoon. But because it's that special time of the month, we also get to shout out our You Can Get It level sponsors, and they are Elisa, Sarah, Radpants, I don't know, I love the name, Megan, Stefan, Amanda the Playwright, Leo, Alexandra, Emily, Brooklyn, Tori, Eli, Jamie, Bryce, Sean, Logan, Dominic, Jamie, Trigger Happy Mongoose, Alex, Shayna, Ali, Dr. Voorhees, MD, Matt, Megan, Amelia, Maxwell, Liza, Courtney, AJ, Spider-Gwen, Lisa, Rock Donkey, Irene, Naomi, Bex, Mallory, Laura, Cameron, Kaylee, Richie, Casey, Daisy, Jackie, Elisa, Mushroom, Snail Fox, Jennifer, and Michelle. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're all a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, come to this cabin in the woods that my cousin owns that we can all just hang out with and, be chill together.
Tonight at the gym, we're doing box jumps.
What is that?
You know what a box jump is, where you jump on the box. This gym doesn't have like wooden boxes. They have like the foam kind of like not as sturdy boxes. You know what I'm saying?
So it's a squishy box?
It's a kind of a squishy box.
Are you in a jumporee, which I'd imagine is like a trampoline-themed place for kids?
No.
You were worried about the box's structural fortitude.
Well, they have different size boxes for different size people, but somebody took the big box. People took the big boxes, so I had to get like a smaller box. I'm a big person. And so like, I'm like killing it, go to jump. My feet hit it and it slides away and my feet go above my head and I fall like this and like slow motion. And I see my feet and I'm like, boom. And like everybody at the gym is just looking at me and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I'm sorry. This happens all the time.
I was in a trailer for a documentary, which is weird, documentaryception.
And also, everyone else they interview in that trailer is super serious, and then it just cuts the page. He slept with like so many people. Like, really. It reminded me of a sketch because of how funny you seemed. Like,
yeah.
I think what's funnier to me is that I know what takes they didn't use, and one of them was Keith Raniere's a total fuckboy. That could have been in the trailer.
and the rest.
Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like rewatching scary movies, but for this month, you all made us rewatch them. And this week, the listeners made us rewatch
Cabin
in the Woods.
Woods.
So I'm assuming both of you all have seen this more than once, right?
I was in the last episode we did of this.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah. Paige, you weren't, though.
I was not there.
So was this the first time you saw it?
No. I've seen this movie before.
Okay.
Although I'm curious for you, since we've watched so many things since the last time you watched this, did more jokes make sense?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I
okay.
missed any of the jokes this time. And I'm sure I did the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think this was our 100th episode when we initially did it.
You'll recognize more knockoff creatures at the end there.
Yeah,
Honestly,
absolutely.
the creatures are my favorite part of this movie, and I'm not ashamed.
I mean, I love Kroger brand Halloween costume versions of famous horror icons.
Hey, don't you talk about Dragon Bat that way. Dragon Bat is awesome.
Or Sawhead.
Oh, instead of the Cinnabons or whatever? Yeah.
No, his name is Fornicus, God of Love and Pain is his name. I found that in Fun Facts.
What?
I love that.
Yeah, in Fun Facts, almost all of them have names of some sort, and his is Fornicus, which I think is very, very funny.
Next time I play an RPG, I'm creating my character as Fornicus, God of Love and Pain.
Yeah, I think it was God of Love and Pain. Let me triple check that. Lord of Bondage and Pain. I'm sorry. Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain.
Okay, that checks out. He is a Cinnabite ripoff, so that's more accurate.
Yeah.
The Hellraiser movies are like bondage for people who have no idea what the BDSM community is up to.
I believe every movie that mentions bondage kind of is like that.
I don't know.
Not
if you
all
look
of them.
at
There are more correct ones. They just never end up on our podcasts.
I love that like both Paige and I immediately jumped to its defense. Like, no, not necessarily. There are other ones. I mean, we haven't done the Secretary yet, but like whatever. We'll talk
That was
about
the one I was thinking of. I was like, Secretary is pretty close.
It's funny that topic comes up way more in Romancing the Pod than this one.
Oh, yes,
I'll tell you,
so much.
Yeah, it's not bonkers enough to do on the podcast right now. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll do it eventually. After we do all the bad BDSM movies, we still got like 365s to get through.
I think there are like 7 Hellraisers to get through, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there you
cannot
go.
believe we've not done a Hellraiser sequel.
me either.
I can.
Why?
Because you hate them, Todd. Like, anytime it comes up, you cannot even, we cannot say the word Hellraiser without you being like, it's the fucking worst thing I've ever seen.
To me, they're like Friday the 13th levels of bonkers, and we
The
should
later
jump
ones
into this.
definitely
Yeah.
are.
I mean, I would
Absolutely.
get back into the franchise knowing that it does get more bonkers and more like tongue-in-cheek,
yeah.
making fun of itself sort of stuff.
It's not so
it's
much
not
that.
tongue in cheek. Yeah.
No, I meant literal tongue through cheek, like
Through
in the
cheek.
pain sort of sense.
It's more that they just started buying cheap horror scripts and then just rewriting Pinhead into them, and that's
Can only do that with Jason.
became
I'm
the
sorry.
sequels. So they're all crazy. There's no like good through line or anything.
I'd like to get my hot take out of the way early.
Awesome.
for it.
Let's go.
I think I like this movie less each time I watch it.
Honestly,
Really?
same.
Interesting.
Okay, Paige, good.
But here's what I will say. So the first time I watched this,
I loved it, except the end.
I loved every single second of it until the ending.
It is a love letter to the like horror fans,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
I loved every single second up until the ending, and then I was like, fuck that. I was furious. Like, Jake was like, he knew I was going to be mad, but then was just like, whoa, she is mad.
She is mad.
Then watching it today, I still have a lot of fun with it. But a lot more stood out to me where I'm like, oh, that's a screenwriting thing that doesn't work. Like, this is kind of a cop-out, and that doesn't actually flow. One of the big things in screenwriting school is causality of like,
yeah.
people need a reason to be at a place to do the thing that they want to do. And this movie really throws that out the window a lot of the time. But I will say the ending bothered me less today. So I think knowing it was coming, I was much more okay with it.
It bothered me more. And let me tell you what, I can't even wait till we get there. The little girl from the of the original zombies follows them down there and kills Sigourney Weaver.
Correct.
I have 2 things to say. I have 2 possibilities. One,
Sure.
I think that those zombies should have been targeting the kids that they were like drawn to, not Sigourney Weaver. Also, I think a better ending would have been he pushes Sigourney Weaver and the girl off, then she kills him, and then she takes Sigourney Weaver's position the next year, and that's how the movie ends.
Honestly, that's kind of what I would have wanted. It's kind of a dark ending in a way, but I that was where I thought we were going to go. Now, here's what I will say that I kind of noticed about the ending this time. Because this is all about sacrifice, I think it's crazy how much blood we spill through the third act of this movie, and the gods are not appeased. I'm like, you can't, like, you're not going to take us killing 70 people?
I mean, and they get all the monsters that come out. Like,
Every single one?
Yeah.
Yes. I will say the things that I like most about this movie are the creatures. I think that's hysterical. I love the in-jokes about them.
Yeah.
And I love most of the third act where they just come out of the elevators and it is a fucking bloodbath. And that cracks me up. I laughed all the way through it. I don't know why it brings me so much joy. I love that he finally gets to see Merman, the blood through the blowhole. Yes,
So
everything.
funny.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's so great. He finally gets his merman.
He finally gets his merman.
Love
The parts that don't work for me, especially on a repeated viewing now, some of the things they do to alter their choices really don't work for me from a writing standpoint.
You mean like the pheromones or like the chemicals?
Yes.
Yeah.
That, I'm like, that does not hold up. And then the ending, because it does give you the choice of you can die with them or die for them. And the fact that they still choose to just die with them, I kind of hate, just because it seems contrarian for no good reason. But I think what it really is you've created all of these problems and all of these interesting things, and you get to an end of a script and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea how to solve this, especially knowing, I'll burn a fun fact. The script was written in 3 days. So, like, they locked themselves in a hotel room and had, like, challenged themselves to write something, and this is what came out of it. And a lot of writers do that. Like, that's not a crazy thing, but usually that's your first draft and then you kind of build off of it. And I'm sure they did too.
You polish from there. Yeah.
I'm sure they did. Like, I am sure that they did, especially because the rest of the movie's so fun. But I think there are some things where it's like, air quotes, pheromones, and they're just like, whatever, we're not going to fix it.
Yeah, it literally, I could see it in the original draft. It's like, how do we do this? Quote, like pheromones,
insert reason
maybe?
here.
We'll fix it later. We'll fix it later. We'll fix it later. And they never fixed it later, right?
And they never fixed it later. And I feel like that's what the ending feels like to me, is that they were like, okay, then what happens? And they're like, I don't know, but we have to check out at noon. Like, I have no idea.
I don't know, but the 8-ball's gone and we have to go home and shower.
I did find extra burned fun fact. The conversation that they have at the end is supposed to be reminiscent of Gorman and Vasquez in Aliens. And with that context, I'm like, I do kind of get it, except that Vasquez and Aliens sacrifice themselves so others can survive.
Right.
And these people won't do it.
I would have shot that mofo in a heart. And I'm like, oh, the world ends?
Oh, do you guys want to talk about it?
Would you shoot him?
Yes.
I am torn.
If I was him, I would have jumped down, or I would have been like, just shoot me.
If I was him, I would have offered or jumped or shot myself.
Same.
100%. Because for me, it's not worth it to kill everyone for me to survive. Like that.
Yes.
Literally the whole world? Yeah, I can
Yes.
take the hit for that. I'll miss you all, but like...
At first, I was like, how do we know they're telling the truth? But then there's a literal earthquake and they can like see the things down below and like clearly it's true.
Oh yeah, it's not like a scam.
Yeah.
I would have believed them. I just saw like 50 monsters that weren't supposed
exactly.
to exist kill a bunch of people.
In her position, I'm a little more torn. I think I inevitably would shoot him though. Like, and I
Yes,
would
I
feel
think so.
terrible for it.
You should. I mean, I would probably do the same.
But I think that would be the perfect origin of the next director or whatever.
Well, I think she's going to die from her werewolf wounds anyway. So even if she had shot him, I don't think she survives. But like,
yeah, me either.
But to save the world, even if I die, like that's worth it, you know?
I do think if we were all down there faced with that choice,
Yeah, I'd shoot
and
Todd.
they were like, Todd,
I'd shoot either one of you.
Exactly. But like, I think if it was the three of us, Sigourney Weaver says, you all have to kill Todd. I think you'd hear Paige go, oh, and then Mike would go, yes.
I'd be like, I'd turn to you and be like, I'm sorry, bro, but it's the whole world. You get it, right?
I know. And I would have hugged you all goodbye and then taken the shot. Yeah.
We'll let you turn around so you didn't have to see it. It would have been fine.
But as I walk away from you to like take the shot, I would be like, hey, it's amazing the love you take it with you. And then take one or two more steps and be like, see you later.
See
and
you
then
later.
Shoot me. That is a ghost joke. I'm so sorry if you guys don't listen to Romance in the Pod. Go listen to the ghost episode. It's fucking unhinged.
Todd, I'd be like, look over there, Todd. That's where we're gonna go create our rabbit farm. Mice and men jokes come to this podcast for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't shoot John Lennon now.
That's the wrong book.
It is. It's Catcher in the Rye. Sorry. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, that was Catcher in the Rye. Todd, what was the bonkers question that you wanted to ask Mikey and I?
Oh, shit. I didn't want to.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't necessarily want to do it.
You said wait for
Okay.
the podcast.
I'm not sure it's going to make sense on Horror Virgin because we talked about it on in Adjustment Bureau, but I wanted to talk to you guys about the war in heaven, and then it occurred to me that you guys may not have any idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
Do you know about the war in heaven?
Which one?
World War I in heaven or World War II in heaven?
Do you mean the war in which Lucifer and his 1/3 of the
Yes.
angels are cast out? Yes, sure. Which is, by the way, not really in the Bible, but sure, whatever. Okay.
Right. It's not. Do you know why they were at war with the other 2/3 of heaven?
In my understanding, from what I have learned, it was over pride, if I remember correctly, that Lucifer thought he could lead, and then that's where the split happens.
Yeah, that is something that I've heard as well. So I think that the Mormon belief has like a lot of fanfic written around the war in heaven because like it was pride ultimately.
Yeah.
He wanted to be like, Satan wanted to be like the Jesus of earth or whatever, like all of that shit. But he wanted the glory and Jesus was
Right.
like, no, give it up to God or whatever. But
Stay humble, fam.
Right, stay humble, dog. Actually, if you look, if Jesus isn't wearing a shirt, he's got that tattooed across his chest.
Just stay humble.
Stay humble.
If you have 17 abs, you got to get tatted up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got 17. He has an odd number of abs.
Hey, you got to show that shit off.
Well, one of his ribs got removed to make pages, people.
Italians, yeah.
Oh, it just got mistranslated, and they thought it was rib, not ab.
Yeah.
I mean, they did look like rolls of bread.
Like, God, look at Jesus' Hawaiian rolls. That's what abs are, paid.
They do kind of look like that. Anyway, so what was the crazy question?
That was it.
Wait, okay, so what was the other fan fiction about
That's it? It's just a generalized question? No punchline.
No, there wasn't a punchline. That's why I was like, I just want to talk to you guys about it. Like, when we got on here, we talked for like 30 minutes before we started recording.
Paige, have you heard about the War of 1812? The second war we had with Britain?
You son of a bitch. You know they burned the White House down?
Did you know that the War of 1812 was actually part of a greater series of wars that was happening at the time?
Is it on Netflix?
Holy shit. Holy shit.
I'm so sorry.
The Nephilim were really in favor of states' rights, and so it was like a whole weird thing.
Of course they were. We're half angel.
Yeah, we threw all their tea in the harbor. You get it. What's the other fan fiction around it? Because
that if Satan had won or Lucifer had won, that we wouldn't have had free will. He was going to take away free will. That was like his.
oh yeah, that's not a
silver
part of
bullet.
ours.
And the reason we had to go to Earth was because we had to get a body. Is that part of your mythos too?
What? No.
Yeah.
What?
So like we didn't have bodies in heaven. And so we had to come to Earth to get a body.
You got to go to Earth and get your Hawaiian rolls. Abs.
But if you eat too many Hawaiian rolls, you lose those abs.
I don't understand this religion.
In our version, Satan's defeat is inevitable because he is ultimately less powerful.
I like the version of religion where Satan's like a bureaucrat assigned to hell to run it for God, where he's like...
I do love those versions. I think that's pretty
like
funny.
the Hercules Lucifer, which I'm fucking here for. Like,
I still like that story better than Cabin in the Woods.
you don't like this movie? That's interesting.
I really liked it when it came out.
The initial watch, I think, is the best one, but it's also
Yes.
when the ending is the worst.
Yeah, I didn't mind the ending that much this time. I honestly don't remember if I minded it the first time.
You did. You hated it the first time.
Okay.
I wasn't even there. I just listened to that one.
It does sort of feel like a cop-out, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty nihilistic.
And it is very nihilistic, right? Because the movie
Yeah.
ends with literally the world dying, question mark? So like,
Yeah.
okay. Which I think is sort of funny in a sense.
I laughed at it this time. I did not
Yeah.
laugh the first time. I was very angry the first time. This time, when I knew it was coming, when that hand comes up, I was like, all right. Like,
Yeah. But if you also like know Joss Whedon and like his style of things, he clearly is like that stoner character, like is the one he identifies with the most. So it like is funny to me that this sort of feels like a hand job to himself.
a little
and the
bit.
hand comes up at the end?
Yeah. That's what I meant. That's the hand job I was referring to.
I also feel like I took a stance strongly against this movie before all the stuff about him came out. So now I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
now I can go harder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like it's pretty wild that like he's the one that survives, and then when he dies, that's when it goes to shit for the Earth.
I technically think the gods should have killed the Earth when he runs into the force field.
I do love the force field. I think that's one of the funniest parts of this movie.
so
I laugh
good.
out loud every time.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's Falcon shadowed like super early on, which I was here for.
Oh, yeah. I've always been a little hit or miss on Joss Whedon, where some things he does I really like, other things I'm just not as interested in. And this one, especially on a rewatch, is kind of in between for me because it has some of the things that he does that I don't always like. But then it's got some of just the horror lore
Yeah.
and in-jokes really get me.
Yeah.
Even on rewatches.
It's clear he's like paying homage to all these movies he loves, you know? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of love and reverence to it, which I dig.
I did, and when we get to it, I'll reference it, but I did write down the board and who voted for what.
Okay, awesome.
So we can talk about it because I love, that's one of my favorite scenes, and I've pulled up the screenshots of it a bunch, but like this was the first time that I realized that not all of them, but some of the teams that are voting for strategic things are also in jokes. And I think
Awesome.
that's
Yeah.
very funny as well.
Yeah, but there's a lot to love about this movie. I still was pretty scared by it at times because there are a lot of jump scares in this movie.
Wait, where?
Yeah, like the werewolf against the glass always gets me, even though you know it's coming.
The one in the RV got me this time.
Yes, the stab in the RV, right?
I knew that one was coming because he was like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. And I just started laughing even before the sickle went through his neck. I was just like, no, it's not.
That makes sense. I say that every time to someone and my relationship goes bad.
It's because you're currently leaving their house. You're just like, shh,
Don't
everything's going to
worry,
be fine.
everything will be
I'm
fine.
going home to make a quesadilla at my place and not share with you at all. I was worried because I thought I was going to be the one coming super hard for the ending. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to get tagged. I don't want DMs. I don't need another Jane Austen week. And then when I watched it today, I was like, no, you know what? All right, I'll let it slide a little bit. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Especially because Mikey's going to hate this worse than me. It'll be okay.
I'll take the heat.
They never tag you. It's always me. We
I
could say
know.
the same thing and I'll
I
get
know.
tagged.
It's sexist.
Yep,
I like how he said that just like matter of factly, like, yeah, it's sexist.
it is.
And also, like, you're the more important host. I mean, I know my place in the podcast where I can have like wild opinions, and they're like, "Oh, guy, it's the other one."
But you are very much in like the wild card lane, right?
Yes.
So you're sort of expected to have shit takes.
Because I like try to come at I try to take a weird take almost every movie because I think it's funny. Well, first off, if Newt really killed everyone,
Don't you fucking come for my girl Newt.
she shouldn't have came for the colony, Paige.
She didn't. Your whack ass theory did. It had nothing to do with her.
You know, not a lot of people argue that theory, and people are talking.
Yeah, they shouldn't. It makes no sense.
I mean, now people are saying that. Now people are, yes.
Although, if you listened to, so we're recording this on a Monday, which is unusual for us, but if you listen to the Cult podcast that dropped today, you will hear me completely forget which podcast I am on and just go, The Notebook? Oh yeah, murder-suicide. And Armando be like, what? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I've never seen the movie. Is that what it's about?
That's me at work. Anytime somebody mentions The Notebook at work, I was like, "Oh, that murder-suicide movie," and
Murder-suicide movie?
they're like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like,
I know. I watched the movie.
"Yeah." They're like, they died of a broken heart. And I was like, "Okay, like Padme." I was
okay,
like,
Padme.
That actually makes sense because when the doctor walks in at the end of the movie,
He just leans his head in and he's like, you're under cardiac arrest.
so do you guys want to go through it so we can talk about it scene by scene?
Yes. We open on blood over hieroglyphs, which immediately reminded me of the end of this movie. And I was like, this fucking. Like out the gate, I was like, try to like it.
"We're coming hard at movies from 2010-ish." When was this released?
2011, and the story of how this movie comes to be and gets released is actually really interesting.
It actually premiered in 2012. It was April 13th, 2012. Yeah.
Yeah, the end of the world year. If you guys don't remember that,
Oh shit!
If Nick Cage didn't remind you enough, wasn't he in that movie 2012?
Oh god, I don't remember.
he was in Knowing. Knowing is a movie where angels come and take his children to a different planet.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Wait, hold on. I'm missing
yeah,
it. Wait,
it's fucking
there's
nuts.
2012 and there's Knowing, and they're both very similar. One is Nick Cage and one is
Okay, I looked it up. John Cusack, this is 2012.
Wait, is it aliens or angels? I thought it was aliens.
well, they're like a little of both. Like when you're like, you fill that role, kind of,
I mean, I can't talk. I just wrote a pilot that basically is like, is it aliens? So like, whatever.
But at the end, you were like, yeah, it is.
This is a science fiction thriller film. Can we do this for the podcast?
No, it's not really scary.
It's scary that it got made for millions and millions
Yes.
and millions of dollars.
That's correct.
I am going to watch this.
If it's scary, I'll advocate for it. It's kind of a Mikey movie.
Yeah, Mikey, I know it's kind of a Mikey movie when you said aliens took his kids to another planet. And I'm assuming they're Adam and Eve of that new planet.
Yeah, I think so.
Knowing was made to be serious.
Like too serious. Where at the end they're almost just like, "Aren't you crying yet?" And you're like, "No." I
like
am
a
wondering
speech.
how this happened.
There's like a speech at the end about humanity.
Well, they put them in like a little like a pod thing, right?
Yeah, they take it to like New Eden. It's like fucking insanity.
Okay, we cannot
The
talk
fact
about
that
this.
I can recite this whole movie from memory,
Yeah.
from when I saw it in the theater, tells me that I love this film.
Well, that's like when I like shouted the plot of Barbarian at my parents in the middle of a California pizza kitchen a week and a half ago. So
I thought out there you just call them pizza kitchens.
no.
This is like every stoner's favorite movie. Like, see, smoking does good for you. I'm like, this is not the
But here's
movie.
the thing, they don't even get stoners right in this movie, and that kind of bothers me too. Like, they give weed way too much credit. And I was just like, man, if you had shit that could get you that high, I would never stop smoking. Like, this seems like an optimal weed experience.
Paige, have you tried PCP?
No, I refuse. I would never. I learned my lesson from that time that guy in Wu-Tang cut his dick off. I'm never going to try PCP.
I'm sorry, which Wu-Tang lost his tang?
He's an ancillary Wu-Tang
Okay.
member. He's like one of like second or third tier, but he did cut his dick off on PCP. And then they interviewed him for Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia episode on PCP.
Did he get his dick back?
No,
A raccoon took it and ran away.
I don't want the illusion of super strength because that's what PCP does to you. You like can't feel pain.
You should try living with it.
Yeah, because you can't feel pain. People will just like jump off buildings and shit. It's bad for business.
Yeah.
But basically, this guy's on PCP the whole film.
No, they make it appear almost as if because he's having like auditory hallucinations and shit.
Yeah, but he dismembers a zombie. Not a little bit, but a lot.
Yeah, maybe it is PCP.
They're like, we found something in the bag that we didn't touch. And I'm like,
It's making him immune. I'm going to burn a fun fact just because I think it's funny and it is applicable to this. So the reason he doesn't go swimming in the lake and the reason that he's in kind of baggy clothes the whole time is because apparently that dude was fucking shredded. And they were like, if we let him take his shirt off in this movie at all, no one's going to believe he's the stoner nerd.
He's got them Hawaiian rolls.
He's got them Hawaiian rolls.
He's got an odd number, lady.
for kings, son. Anyway, we open in an office building that seems nondescript, and we have what is his name? Bradley
Whitford. Yeah, I love Bradley Whitford.
Bradley Whitford, and then another guy who is also famous. Oh.
He's in everything. I know you're talking about. He is great. His name is Richard Jenkins.
Anyway, they are having water cooler talk. It's not very kind, but I also think that Bradley Whitford's character is not supposed to be kind.
No.
He's kind of a villain. So they're walking through the hallways, and another worker catches up with them and is like, hey, Stockholm went south. And he's like, I thought they were looking good. And she's like, no. And he's like, well, it's never a stable scenario. We can't trust the Swedes. And she's like, but Barcelona and Buenos Aires fell too. And he's like, it's just Japan and us. Now, we do briefly later see clips of the other cities.
Yes.
I have a fun fact to burn. Do you want me to do it now or then?
Yes, burn it
Let's do
now.
Let's
Burn it all.
Give it to us now.
So each of those cities is actually supposed to represent a different monster from a different horror film.
Yeah.
Well, Japan, obviously, The Ring. Or
Japan
whatever.
is obviously The Ring, although the Japan callback is one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Buenos Aires is King Kong, and Stockholm is John Carpenter's The Thing. And then
Awesome. Okay, yeah.
and then finally Madrid is Dracula. I do think it's really funny that it is Stockholm and it is the Swedes, even though John Carpenter's The Thing is Norwegians that they
Norwegians.
consistently call Swedes on accident.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
This movie is insanely meta.
Yes. So we cut to from them being like, well, it's just Japan and us, but it'll be fine. We cut to the group of teens that we're going to be following, and they are packing for a camping trip. We do establish that Dana, who's the redhead, has slept with one of her professors, and then he broke up with her via email. We see that her friend dyed her hair blonde. We meet her friend's boyfriend, Chris Hemsworth, who we will find out is on a full academic scholarship and is actually a smart dude because he's like, yeah, no, if you have this professor, read this book because he doesn't know it as well and he'll think you're insightful. And he's like actually a smart kind of fun guy.
I do love that, like, when he sees his girlfriend with books, he's like, what are you doing with these? What have I told you about these? And she's like, I learned it from watching you. As she runs out of the room. Like, that shit, like, that is like what a good, healthy relationship looks like to me. Like, just someone who will like be silly and one up your bits. Like, fuck.
For case in point, I was answering work emails in the bathroom because I had my phone.
Right.
And Jake texted me, "Did you die on the toilet like Elvis?" And then I texted him back, "Yes, put pepperonis on my eyes for the ferryman." And then he texted back, and I will read it to you verbatim because it is worth it. "It's not enough. I'm just Giotto the boatman. I got a hole in my gondola." So he invented an entire Italian character for our role playing.
You guys are into some weird shit, and I'm here for it, Paige.
Yeah.
Everyone has their kinks, man.
We always have pepperonis handy, just in case somebody dies.
Your body is my gondola.
Your body is my gondola.
Anyways, I've just started texting phrases with the Italian hand emoji on either side of it so people know that's how it's supposed to be read.
Yeah.
I'll read him a text.
Somebody posted in the Facebook group that I accidentally used Waliji's full name as me, Mr. Papadopoulos.
You doxed Waluigi on an episode?
Wah. Anyway, so Thor throws a football out the window to his friend who catches it down below. And this is a friend that they've like brought to kind of try and set up with Dana to like get her out of this funk from sleeping with her professor. So they all go down, they're packing the Winnebago, and who should show up but a hot boxing Volvo? Out steps Marty with a giant travel mug that extends into a bong, which by the way was fully functional.
Really?
As both a travel mug and a bong, and it cost them $5,000 to make.
Nice. Did it actually collapse like that?
It did.
That's
it did indeed.
awesome.
It is fully functional.
Because
Yeah.
it looks like a regular like coffee mug you would take to
Yeah.
work, to your very corporate job, you know?
Yep. It flies under every radar. It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes to their Winnebago, and this is how you know that this movie is old, is because they're like, "Dude, cool it with the weed. We don't want to get in trouble." And I was like, "From who?"
Yeah,
Like,
that is one
what?
of those things that does not hold up well at all, just because, I mean, here in the South, we can't get weed, but like it is much more relaxed as far as policing goes on it.
Yeah.
You can't hear this, but Mikey is like winking at me.
There's a big push to police the fentanyl right now.
Yeah.
If you're gonna police one thing, I'd say police the fentanyl. Just, let the stoners order more pizza than they normally would, and nobody gets hurt.
What is that, like a hostage negotiation? Nobody gets hurt. Let the stoners order pizza.
Just let them walk through drive-thrus, and everything is gonna be fine.
If you've ever been behind someone walking through a drive-thru, it's the worst.
It happens pretty frequently to me. However, some places will have a sign that's like, "We will not serve you if you walk up." But then other places are just like, "What up, bro? Yeah, I'm blazed as fuck too. How many tiny tacos do you want? Do you want those toasted and smothered? Hell yeah."
Tiny tacos do sound good right now.
Tacos sounds so
Dude, Jack in the Box tiny tacos fucking slap. Anyway, they start their journey, and he's rolling like half a cartel's worth of weed on that table.
Yeah.
He's got like half a pound in a bag, and then another half a pound out on the table that he's rolling.
Just loose.
Just loose.
Like, how much money did he spend for this cabin
That's
weekend?
so much weed. Like, here's the thing. Now, because it's taxed now, it's more expensive to get that much weed. And it also looks like he's rolling shake. He's not rolling flour, so that's going to be a difference in price. But that's like the amount of weed that they pull out, like when they catch smugglers and they've got a brick of it. Like, that's how much weed it is. I mean, that's dealer amount of weed. And it's also potentially thousands of dollars, depending on how good the weed is.
So if you got pulled over with that much weed, you might be in a little bit of a situation.
Oh, you're going to prison. That is possession with intent to distribute. But I always think it's funny in movies where there's just way too much weed on the table.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that he slammed his head down into it and snorted a bunch and then started telling people to look at his little friend or whatever.
Tried to push one of the joints into his arm.
But he is making these joints, so the weed's like loose out on the table while they're in the RV driving. Like that's
Right.
the
It
worst
would go
time to
everywhere.
have loose. I know, right? The window opens and like the shit goes everywhere. You just run over a bump and it shakes off the table. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you just sent $300 out the door
I
at the
know.
window. Like, it's crazy. But then the other thing too, because he's got conservatively like 20 joints rolled on the table.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is he rolling these to sell? Because even for like heavy weed smokers, they're only away for a weekend. Like, that's so much
48
weed.
hours. Yeah.
It's bonkers. It's crazy. Anyway, so as they're driving, we cut over to the office who is watching, and they're like, we're right on time. We cut back into the Winnebago, and they're like, this road doesn't even show up on GPS. And he's like, that's the whole point, to get off the grid. And we cut to the office where Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins, who have been walking this whole way to kind of like talking between themselves as we cut back and forth. Now they walk into the control room. They have to show their ID.
Yeah.
This is where we meet their security guy.
The new one.
The new one.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the last one, but this one is going to have a close encounter with the Scarecrow folk. And that's,
Yeah, he has a bad night.
he has a bad night.
Yeah. You sort of feel bad for him because he's like the only one who's like, should we actually be doing this? This is bad.
Yeah, he's the only one with any compassion.
Yeah. And then he gets killed in the end. Like no one survives. So
Well, and he tries to grenade them to like kill and save people and is willing to sacrifice himself to do it.
yeah.
Anyway, meanwhile, the teens roll up to the Harbinger, which has a very conspicuous Confederate flag and
Yeah.
a lot of dangerous, rusty stuff laying around, and is conveniently a closed gas station. So they're looking around. He pops out and he's like, you're uninvited. I'm closed. And they're like, whoa, dude, we just need gas. Like, how about, could we just get gas and maybe directions to Tillerman Road? And he's just like, with that whore? And they're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Whoa, hey. So they get a little bit of gas. They throw some money at him and they're like, that's enough gas, right? And he's like, enough to get there, but it's the trip back. That's the trip. Like, and they're just like, we're leaving. I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
I can't.
But they pay him, but then they fuck off. Yeah.
Well, he throws his money at him. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he watches them drive down the road. They go through the mountain tunnel, and as they do, we watch as a falcon flies and hits the force field just as they come out the other side.
Yeah. It's really cool. I really like it. I like the way they set all this up because it's clear they're like fucked.
But
Yeah.
like, this is how most horror movies start, where you're like, yeah, they're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But I mean, one of the reasons I love about this movie is that, well, let me say it this way. Like, Paige, when you said it took 3 days to write this movie, I had the thought this time watching it, I was like, I bet this movie was one of the easiest things Joss ever wrote because it is so referential. It's like,
Yes.
where do I want to borrow from or pay homage to, right? Like, do I want to
Right.
do an Aliens reference or whatever? Or do I want to go in a different direction, Halloween or whatever? And then just sort of plug that into the next scene, right?
It's Ready Player One for horror movies.
Yeah, it very much is. I just loved all of that about it. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah. So we cut to them approaching the cabin, which is absolutely modeled after the Evil Dead cabin
Yeah.
and the Cabin Fever cabin, which is also modeled after the Evil Dead cabin. It's the Evil Dead cabin.
Yeah.
And they kind of go and start dividing up rooms. But as Holden gets into his room, he's Thor's friend, but he sees that there's this real creepy picture of a bunch of farmers just like going ham on a sheep, like pulling entrails out, whole nine. And he's like, oh no. So he takes the painting off the wall, revealing a two-way mirror.
Yeah.
So that he can see into Dana's room as she's starting to undress. And he does watch it for slightly longer than I would have, but then he does warn her.
I definitely understand that moral dilemma. Like he goes through in that moment. He does the right thing, obviously, but I get it.
Yeah, he does warn her. I wish he would have done it faster, but he does.
Yeah.
And then offers to switch rooms.
So he can put on a show with his Hawaiian
Oh,
rolls.
absolutely. The first thing he does when he goes into his room is take his shirt off, knowing that he did not put that painting up.
Oh, what you didn't see is that he did like 30 push-ups and crunches before he took his shirt off.
They're like, why are you doing burpees down the hallway? He's like, shut up.
He's like, I'll be right back.
Gotta get straight.
I mean, and here's the thing. She watches for a little too long, too. Like, it is also,
Yeah.
Anyway, but she tries to put the painting back up and is like, oh no. So then she puts a blanket over
The
it.
painting is creepy as fuck. I would put a blanket
It is
over
super
it
creepy.
too.
So anyway, We cut back to the control room where they're like, hey, they switched rooms. Let engineering know. Should we pipe some things in orally? And we find out that they're actively making her blonde friend dumber, like through the hair dye. And then they're trying to make Marty dumber through the weed that he's smoking. They're actively like controlling the scenario.
Yeah, through chemicals or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Harbinger calls and they put him on speakerphone.
I do sort of love the Harbinger speakerphone bit. Like,
love it so much.
I mean, Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins are like they're great, but they are villains. Yeah. But they're so funny together. Like,
it's very, very funny. And the Harbinger is just like, their eyes are blind to the iniquity and the blood, and their ears are stopped. We need to cleanse the world of the. Am I on speakerphone?
Yeah.
It's like,
I can hear the echo. I know you're lying to
yeah,
me.
Gary. Yeah. It's like your one coworker who just takes it too far.
But I like that the Harbinger was obviously there for the people going to the cabin.
Right.
But the Harbinger is also there for the people who are like putting on this ritual, right?
Yeah.
So I love that the Harbinger plays like playing a dual role. Yeah. Like, I don't know if he got paid twice, but whatever.
Whatever. He definitely got paid his voiceover rate. So
for sure.
We cut to all the teens swimming in a gross lake, except for Marty because he was fucking shredded.
I do love that, like, when Thor's girlfriend doesn't want to get in, he's like, oh my God, what's that in the lake? It looks like my girlfriend, and he shoves her in.
He just throws her in.
I thought that was really funny. I did not remember that from the first time, so that made me laugh again this time.
Anytime anyone throws anyone into pools or lakes, I get really nervous because I'm just like, cell phone. Like, is it in your pocket? Like,
oh, yeah. I would be livid if you threw me in the lake. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he jumps in and he's like, oh no, it's the gorgeous man. And she's like, I'm going to kill you. He's like, don't kill the gorgeous man. We're endangered. Crazy. We cut back to the control room where they are posting bets on, well, and we don't know exactly what yet. We just hear that zoology swears that we have one. We don't know what that refers to. And that maintenance always votes the same way. And Ronald the intern wants to vote the same as maintenance, but he's kind of confused about the whole thing.
I love the way this scene ends.
Yes.
Because the intern's like, I don't know what I should do. Bradley Whitford's character, like, tell me what you're thinking. And Bradley Whitford's character goes, I just want this moment to be over
as soon as possible.
That was such a funny way of being like, I don't care. Just tell me what you want to do so we can both move on with our lives. I loved it.
Yes. Well, and this is also where the security guard is like, this is kind of macabre. Like, this is harsh. And they're like, it's just people letting off steams. And he's like, well, but you control the outcome. And they're like, no. They have to choose. It is free will. We can get them to the cellar, but then they choose what kills them.
Yeah.
Which I do think is kind of part of the movie that doesn't work for me because they seem to have a lot of control, not so much on free will, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree, Paige. I don't think they really have any free will at all. I do think that they are, like, whatever monster comes is very much tied to whatever trinket they interact with. So, like, I can definitely see why they would place bets on that, because that is one of the only games of chance in this, right, that you could do. The rest of it is very much controlled, right?
Yes.
It's almost Hunger Games-ish in that sense, right? And they're the game masters. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and he walks him through. He's like, they met the Harbinger. That guy's practically wearing a sign that says you're going to die. And they still went on. Like, they have to choose to ignore him and choose what happens in the cellar.
Yeah.
If they don't transgress, if they don't make those bad choices, it doesn't happen. But then at the same time, they're like pumping pheromones and stuff in to influence those choices. So
yeah.
We cut back to a teen cabin party, and they are similarly dancing in the control room.
Love that shot. So funny.
This is where they play Truth or Dare, where Jules, the blonde friend, ends up making out with a werewolf.
Which she goes above and beyond on that wolf head. Like,
she does.
She's doing the most.
She is doing the most. This is one of those things where I was like, they don't get stoners right. Because Marty's like, that moose. And they're like, clearly that's a wolf. And he's like, whatever that creature is. And I'm like, look, man, I have known people to be pretty fucking stoned and they would still know that that was a wolf. Like that.
Yeah.
Unless he's on PCP.
On PCP, it's like, I killed that wolf with my bare hands.
I dare you to kiss that moose that I killed earlier.
Yes. It's definitely a raccoon, but okay.
I wonder if not getting stoners, quote unquote, is a reference to like 80s and 90s slashers also
That
not
could be
getting
really
potheads.
funny, actually.
Because like they don't get potheads. Like we just did Friday the 13th part 7,
Yeah.
right? And there was that in that movie too. And it was
That
just
was
like
another
crazy.
movie that had way too much weed in it,
Yeah.
where you were like, is he a member of the cartel? Like, what is happening?
So I don't know if it is a reference to it, but I definitely could see it being a reference to it. Yeah.
I would accept that as an explanation.
Yeah, but I have not read anyone saying that. That was just me wondering.
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
no. I mean, they reference everything else, so that
Yeah.
would make sense. Anyway, she makes out with that wolf. She comes back, which, by the way, making out with taxidermy, not a good idea. Chemicals.
It doesn't seem like a fun time to me.
I don't know.
You should probably not put taxidermy in your mouth. I mean, if you accidentally licked one once, it's probably fine, but like you shouldn't like practically deep throat it like she does, I would imagine.
Yeah.
She's like licking the tongue. She was in there, man.
The tongue's probably fake.
Well, for the movie, it was, you should not make out with taxidermy.
They said the same thing about mold, and that's how we got penicillin.
What? What? Don't lick mold. Like what?
I will eat blue cheese forever.
That's a different thing, my man. I don't want you like looking at your shower in your old house like, oh, someone left blue cheese on my walls.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you two have to be so anti-science all the time.
If you want to die like Brittany Murphy, that's on you. Wasn't it the spores in her house?
Yeah, it was probably
That's
mold
not.
in her house.
They
That's
haven't
true.
proven that.
That's what I believe, because it also killed her husband. So she comes back from licking that wolf, and Dana's next, and they're like, you're just going to pick truth because you're a pussy. And she's like, no, dare. And as she says it, the cellar door opens, and they're like, it must have been the wind. And I'm like, inside the cabin? Like,
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
anyway.
I mean, I certainly would not go down there, right? I wouldn't go close to it. I'd go back to the Rambler or whatever and get the fuck out of there.
Yep.
But this moment scared me though, because I didn't know it was coming and it was a big loud sound and that qualifies as a jump scare in my body, apparently.
I guess. Not my body, but sure.
Yeah, no, I honestly hate that about myself.
So they all go down into the cellar. Now, what I found myself wondering is if they hadn't gone into the cellar, and if at that point they had just been like, we're out and going to the Rambler, what would they have done?
They would have blown the passageway and they would have been stuck there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that there's any way they can get out unless the final girl does survive, right? Because that's the one
Right.
that's allowed to live. Doesn't matter if she
Right.
dies or not, as long as she experiences pain, whatever that Bradley Whitford says or whatever.
Right.
So like everyone except for the final girl is dead
Right.
wholesale. Doesn't matter from that point on.
Right. Yeah. So they go down in the cellar, and there's just a whole bunch of like film projectors, creepy dolls, diary, a wedding dress, a conch, a music box, puzzle sphere. And they're all things that you're like, clearly these are haunted objects.
Dude, yes, Paige, obviously, all of them are haunted. Like, don't touch the fucking haunted antiques. This is the reason I tell Natalie I don't want to go antiquing right here.
I would have had Cinnabon, Lord of Pain and Suffering and Bondage after me because I've been like, oh, a puzzle. But if you have to solve it, I wouldn't be able to solve it. So I'd just be like, oh, fuck this puzzle.
But Dana picks up the diary and reads from it. And it is horrifying. It's the section that's like, Mama screamed most of the night until Papa cut her belly and stuffed coals in it, which sounds like it might be a reference to the Anthill Kids, which is a real case that happened with
Really?
Rock Terrio. He was a cult leader that would perform amateur surgery on his multiple wives. It's super dark. Real upsetting story.
Yeah, that does not sound awesome.
It's one of a very small handful of cult podcast episodes that we like recorded and then like finished recording and then just sat there for a second and we're like, I gotta like watch SpongeBob or something. Like I gotta like cleanse the brain.
I gotta take a break. Yeah.
Yeah. But we do from here get the line that like cutting the flesh gives him the husband's bulge.
Yeah.
Which, of course, my husband walked through the room and was like, I've got a husband bulge. And I was like, good to see you. Anyway, there's Latin. And she's like, I wonder what it says in Latin. And I do love that Marty's like, don't read the Latin. Like, motherfuck. Like, Marty is all of us being like, I've seen this a million times.
Yeah, he's like, I know exactly what's happening and it's not good. Everyone stop. And I like how he's like,
Everyone stop.
hey, can we all go back upstairs? I dare everyone to go back upstairs.
Go back upstairs.
I really like that.
But she reads it aloud and the zombies start to rise. including the mother zombie with her belly of coals. We cut back to the control room where he's like, we have a winner. It's the Buckners. So maintenance, who I guess chooses the Buckners every time, and Ronald the intern win.
I do love when they announce it, you hear maintenance and Ron the intern, and you hear him go, woo! Like back in the distance. It's so funny.
All right. Are you ready to go through the list?
Yes, do it.
Okay. Werewolf, which finance has voted for werewolves.
Yeah.
Alien Beast, which is biomed, which I thought was pretty funny that that's who was doing that. Mutants is demolition. Wraiths, nobody voted for wraiths.
It's never wraiths.
It's never wraiths. Zombies, which is the chem department. Reptilius. We don't know what Reptilius is, but nobody voted for it.
Was that the big snake, maybe?
No, because Giant Snake is also on this list.
Oh.
So I don't know what Reptilius is. Clowns were electrical.
Okay.
Which I found pretty fun.
Yeah.
Witches were operations. Sexy witches were archives. And they're two separate.
That's great.
Demons, nobody voted for. Hell Lord, it just says sitters. And then angry molesting tree is wranglers.
You can just call them Ents.
Well, no, angry molesting tree is Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead.
That's right. I forgot about that. You're right.
The one that you have not seen, but...
No, I mean, there's a pretty handsy tree in the remake too, Paige.
Okay. Giant Snake, which is internal logistics. Deadites, which is story department. Kevin, nobody voted for Kevin. But I do have a fun fact about Kevin. Kevin is meant to be shared universe with 2005's Sin City. So it's based on Elijah Wood's character from Sin City.
The yellow boy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. He made me watch as he like ate her hands.
What his name was.
Yeah. It's that yellow bastard is the comic that it's based on. That's the villain from that one. Kevin is like one of his henchmen that is also a cannibal. Anyway, Mummy Psychology, which I think is a pun joke, like mummy, like mommy. But anyway.
I love it.
The Bride Digital Analysis, the Scarecrow Folk, which is data archives, Snowman is communications, Dragon Bat, which no one votes for.
No one wants to see Dragon Bat. The cleanup on that's a nightmare.
We see so much Dragon Bat at the end. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Vampires is distribution, which I think is funny because they tend to replicate.
Yeah.
Dismemberment Goblins, the Sugar Plum Fairy, Merman, which is Bradley Whitford has voted for Merman. The Reanimated, which is administration. So they have the zombies, Reanimated, and then the zombie redneck torture family, which is what Maintenance and Ronald voted for.
Woo!
Unicorn, which was engineering. The Huron, we don't know what that is either. Sasquatch, Wendigo, and Yeti. Dolls, and it just says kitchen next to it. So the kitchen crew voted for dolls. And then the Doctors and Jack-o'-lantern, Giant, and Twins.
Okay.
That is your list. I would have voted for Dragon Bat. Personally.
Me too. We do see Dragon Bat do some work, and it's pretty impressive work.
Dude, I fucking love Dragon Bat. Dragon Bat forever.
I mean, he's not quite as good as Bone Bat, but I do like Dragon Bat.
I mean, I feel like Bone Bat and Dragon Bat would be friends.
Or maybe even distantly related, you know?
Maybe.
They're both of the horror bat species.
Yeah. Dragon Bat takes it a little too far.
I don't know. He's got like screaming echolocation. And he also, my favorite thing about Dragon Bat is he gets released in a building where he can't easily fly down the hallways because he's too big. So he kind of bumbles around like a real bat. And I do really think that's funny.
It's sort of cute.
Like a bat stuck in a ceiling tile.
That's pretty much how I am in an office space.
You ever see Mikey in his storage unit, guys?
No.
It's the last thing you'll see.
So they clarify for the security guy. They're like, this is actually what nightmares are made of. They are based on worse things, essentially. But you'll get used to it. But this is also where Bradley Whitford is like, he had the conch in his hand. Like, I'm never going to see a merman, am I? And then this is where Richard Jenkins is like, it's terrifying. And the cleanup is a nightmare. But instead, they get zombified, pain-worshipping backwoods idiots. AKA zombie redneck torture family, the Buckners.
Yeah.
So he says, we should call Japan. And he's like, well, what are they going to do? Kick back and relax? It's Japan, which is racist.
Yeah.
But then we cut to a video feed of what is happening in Japan. And it is a classroom full of school children, school girls specifically,
Yeah.
screaming and trying to get out of the classroom while essentially an analog for The Ring is occurring in the middle of the room.
And I just thought about this, but like, so does Japan have different rules than them where they don't need the 5 types?
I think, yes. So here's what I think. I think that each culture has requirements based on us, like whatever our cultural, vibe is. And I feel like if you're looking for what's one of the most American horror tropes, kids at a cabin gotta be it. Like,
Yes.
that's very us. And then if you look at the feed from Japan, yes, it's supposed to be The Ring, but it could also be The Grudge. It could be a million different.
So many movies, especially from that time. Yeah.
And then I think the other ones are kind of just a little bit of a throwaway to get those other monsters in there. But I think it's based on who we are. So whichever continent or whatever.
Yeah, I think that you're right. We don't have confirmation of that, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you're thinking about when the meta-ness of this movie actually becomes like the metaphor of the movie, and that would be like the viewers are the gods or whatever.
Yes, because we call for the sacrifice. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It would make sense in this weird metaphor for this movie that the gods that you're trying to appease in each location would be of the same culture, right? So like that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we cut back to the cabin where now Jules is doing a sexy fireplace dance. And everyone's kind of like, this is out of character for her.
Right.
It's also like super weird because she's like dancing for everybody and her boyfriend's like,
Yeah.
woo, yeah. It's uncomfortable.
It's very trash in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, but if Trash's boyfriend was about to go over to the stoner and be like, I'm going to get off on watching you rail my girlfriend, like that's the vibe.
Instead of, because Suicide is the name of Trash's boyfriend,
Yeah.
where he just stands at the edge of the graveyard and is like, no one understands me. I have thoughts, That would be so great. Anyway, so after her dancing, she and Thor go outside to have sex in the woods. And they basically are just like, perfect. This is what we need them to do
Yeah.
so that they can die.
I mean, and they are chemically orchestrating this evening. Like they don't
Yes.
even necessarily have free will at this point, right?
Right. And at this point, Marty's like, don't you think it's weird? Because like they're acting strange. He's acting like some aggro macho dude, and that's not him. Like he's a sociology major.
This is where we learn he's on an academic scholarship, right? He's on a full ride for his brain.
This is the first time where we also hear Marty basically say like, I think we're being puppeted by puppeteers.
Right.
So he decides that he's going to go kind of to his room and come down from his crazy high, I guess. Meanwhile, he leaves the other two on the couch where again, they are piping pheromones and stuff into the house, but he's reading the diary in Latin. And they're kind of like getting to know each other a little bit better.
I do love how she's like, wait, you speak Latin? He's like, no, not since 10th grade.
Yeah.
My high school had a Latin class you could take.
Yeah. I was required to learn Latin roots for a lot of stuff, but not full Latin.
Yeah.
Is that a band?
Yeah, Latin Roots. They just do Roots covers, but it's like salsa. It's great, honestly.
That would be
Honestly,
such a
that
good
sounds
cover
awesome.
band.
It's like, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
And Latin Roots would be a hilarious name for that too. Anyways, so they're out in the woods. They find a nice spot and they're like literally piping in pheromones. They're changing the lighting.
Well, and the controlling the temperature because like she doesn't want to get naked
Yes.
because she's cold or whatever. So like,
She's cold, so they raise the temperature.
Yeah.
But I also really kind of hate the whole, like, all the guys are in the room watching. I'm just like, ugh.
but they do kick everyone out before it happens, right? I
They
feel like
do.
they expect everyone to show up. And so they orchestrate a way for them to like, oh, it's not going to happen this year. And then they kick everybody out and then they make it happen because they know they have to appease
Right.
the viewers, right? They have to appease
Right.
the gods.
Right. And so she's got to show her boobs before she gets killed, which I also don't like. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, every Friday the 13th movie. Like,
Yeah, that is a
You know.
very common trope in slashers. Yeah.
Yep.
Or it used to be.
Yeah. But I feel like this is paying homage to all
yeah,
of
to
that.
those 80s ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the zombies attack. They stab through her hand. They snag her with a bear trap on a chain, which is terrifying. but also reminded me of Kung Pao Enter the Fist, if anyone has seen Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Love Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Like Betty's claws. I'm just like, nah, Betty.
I hate this. I don't know what you'd call it. This weapon that they're using. Like,
It's a bear claw on a chain. I mean, it's a bear trap on a chain.
yeah. I hate it
Yeah.
so much. It is like so terrifying to me. I don't think the physics of it would work, but I still hate it.
Yeah. Anyway, so they then farm saw her head off.
Dude, I love this shot though. It's so good because they're like holding Hemsworth back, right? And they're
Right.
preparing her to be killed. She's screaming and all that stuff. And she says, no, don't. And then starts to yell cut as they're cutting her throat. And as she yells cut, that's when the scene stops. And I was like, oh, that's such a fun little like meta nerdy joke. And I'm here for that. That's such a fun way to do it.
So they throw the lever and blood pours into the statue because
Yeah.
she has died.
We don't actually see the totality of the statues yet, but we see like the top of it. Yeah.
Right. We cut to Marty's room where he is reading Little Nemo and Adventures in Slumberland. Are either of you familiar?
Yeah, I've seen Nemo.
No, completely different.
My
But
bad.
Jason Momoa,
Oh, Dreamland. Yeah, I have not watched it. Is it good?
I don't know. I haven't seen that version. I am familiar with, there's like I think it's like Miyazaki adjacent version
Okay.
that came out when I was younger. That is fucking terrifying. Which it is kind of an allegory for this film in a way because
They are stuck in sort of a dream world.
yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
But he decides he's going to go out for a walk. He goes outside. And as he walks past the other two making out on the couch, he does comment that one of them has a husband bulge that I do think is pretty funny.
Yeah. I think husband's bulge is a very funny term, and I am going to use it.
Yep. He goes outside and he looks up at the sky and he's like, I thought there'd be stars, which again is a clue to the fact that they're basically in a Truman Show
Yeah.
horrorscape.
And a low rent Truman Show because they didn't even try and fake stars.
Right?
You know how easy that would have been? Way easier than installing an elevator to hell or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't believe they have that powerful force fields and they didn't know that the other dude was not dead.
Right?
Like, I really went into the logic of this whole thing today and I was like, I don't like that. Like, they're like, oh, that's why the demolitions didn't go off. Their whole control room, there should have been like alarms and stuff blaring.
oh, yeah. When Marty doesn't die, they should have known right away he was
Right
not dead.
away.
Because the blood goes into the statue, right?
Right.
I guess it was just the zombie racist guy that his blood fell into the statue, I guess.
Or just Marty got injured enough because he
Marty
does
got
get
stabbed
stabbed
in the
in the
back, yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly thought he might have been paralyzed after that because it was right in his spine, it looked like, you know?
Yeah.
Well, he's on PCP.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, he just can't feel it yet.
I mean, honestly, if he was on PCP, the whole rest of this movie makes a lot more sense.
I didn't know you got wet.
Did you look up what it was called or did you just know that?
I know that from Training Day, Paige. I literally was quoting Denzel Washington's character when he gets Ethan Hawke to smoke the PCP lace joint.
Yep.
So no, I don't know anything about drugs, man.
I don't think I would do that.
No, I would never do that.
Here's training day. If I was Ethan Hawke, I'd be like, I have to step out and make a phone call. I gotta call home. Human resources. The guy that you've assigned me with tried to make me smoke a PCP lace joint. I really need help. Please send the captain or whatever. Like, I'm like, this is
Who's
obvious.
training who, Mikey? Who's training
Who's
who?
training?
Well, I went to one training, and that was the video they made us watch that HR said about.
About getting wet on schedule.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there aren't stars, but in the background, we see the little tiny zombie girl coming out of the woods. But he turns around to pee, and Thor comes running out of the woods.
And saves his life.
Yeah.
Because that little girl was like about to get Marty.
He clotheslines her. It's pretty great.
She like backflips. I mean, it's actually a pretty great stunt. Whoever performs that did a great job.
He screams, "Take that, you dead bitch." Anyway, so he's like, we got to get out of here. Like, go inside. Like, don't open the door. And at first, Dana's like, I'm not leaving without Jules. And who is at the door but the giant zombie dad who tosses her Jules' head?
Yeah. Oh, I would have lost my mind. I do think it's funny that she throws the head across the room. And I have to say, if that happens to me and Mikey, my head is thrown to you, please just drop it. Don't throw it as far as you can.
If you think I'm not gonna mess with your head,
I'm going to drop kick your head.
I'm gonna put my fingers in your mouth.
You're not using it?
Mikey, that's so weird. Why?
Okay, I'm gonna. I'm going to put 3 fingers in your esophagus and dance it around like a puppet.
Do you mean like from the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably too dark.
I'm like, hey, everybody, my name's Todd.
Then you can just do the impression of me.
And then with my other hand, I would move the mouth. Oh, Todd, you're such a dummy.
I'm gonna put in the I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna like find the sound effect and I'm gonna drop it in.
Anyway, they close the door. They get it bolted. They go to close all the windows and everything. And he's like, there's more of them. And he's like, there's a little girl. And this is where Dana makes the connection. She's like, Patience, the girl from the diary.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So they're about to go through the house and barricade everything. And he's like, we got to stay together, whatever we do. And we cut to the control room and they're like, nah, shit. Pheromones, split them up. Which this is the one that doesn't work for me the most. Because I'm just like, what?
Yeah, what pheromone makes you change your mind?
Yeah.
What you need is the Adjustment Bureau.
Yes, that is what you need. Yeah, but it's very much like we all have to stay together. Oh wait, never mind. We should split up.
Yeah.
Just because he got something blown in his face. Like that is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. But they split up. They each go into their respective bedrooms and they all get attacked, usually like through the windows.
Yeah.
Until and they pull Marty kind of through the window. He smashes a lamp as he's like trying to close his window. He sees that there's a wire. Just as he's investigating it, they're like, should we do something? Should we wipe his like what are we gonna do? And they're like, don't worry about it. Zombie dad's on the way. So the zombie dad grabs him through the window.
Yeah, but it gives him time to like grab something that he uses as a weapon. Is that lamp?
It's the giant bong.
Oh yeah, it is the giant bong. That's right.
Yeah, and he hits him with it, but it doesn't matter because he
Yeah.
gets stabbed in the back and dragged away. And we hear like a splort, and then we watch as Bradley Whitford like pull the leather, crunk, like that.
We also do see like a splurt of blood. Like it does look
Yeah.
like he gets killed. You just don't see it, right? But
Right.
yeah, apparently he doesn't.
The whole place shakes, a window breaks, and Holden breaks the mirror between him and Dana's rooms and pulls her through into his room.
Yeah.
That room has a trap door in, and they think it just goes to the basement, so they go down there, but it is definitely the torture basement.
Oh,
and she's
yeah.
like, this is where we get killed. They're trying to find a door when the zombies get them from above with the bear trap with a chain, aka Betty's claws.
Look, not everybody can afford a red room of pain. Some of us have to make do with a torture basement.
Some of us have to make do with a butler's pantry full of wet wipes and vibrators.
Isn't the butler's pantry like just like the hallway kitchen in between?
Yes.
Like okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hallway shelf that sometimes has a sink in it.
I mean, that reminds me of like people being like, in my bonus room, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that you have so much square footage. You get a bonus space.
I had a friend who had a bonus room for a while that they cleared out, and then he got an Oculus and just used that room as like an Imaginarium, basically.
I think bonus rooms shouldn't be on your like mortgage. Like it should just it's a misnomer.
It's like a tax loophole.
Oh yeah, I've got 1,200 square feet and then a bonus room. Like the bonus room is just like a bonus on top of what you bought, you know?
I mean, I feel like that would make actual housing sizes and blueprints and everything difficult to quantify, but okay.
Yeah. What you're describing would be a nightmare, but I like it
Yes.
as a comedic premise.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are always complaining about the housing market. I'm trying to help.
This is not going to help. Anyway, she stabs a crowbar through the zombie's head. It pulls it out. She stabs him a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And in the control room, they're like, these fucking zombies. Do you remember when you could just throw a girl in a volcano? Which is
I thought that was very funny. Yeah.
But they get out. They meet up with Thor. But they're like, where's Marty? They got him. So they leave behind. They hop in the Winnebago. And there is a bloody handprint on the door. So we know that one of them is in the Winnebago.
Oh, yeah. Like they foreshadow that kill pretty early on
Yes.
in this little montage here.
We cut to Japan, where all of the schoolgirls are singing a fun friendship song. And then, according to them, the evil is defeated and her spirit will live in the happy frog. Yay!
I love this. It's so fucking funny.
It's one of my favorite callbacks in the movie. It's so great. Because it is also like, for as stereotypical as the first callback is of Japanese horror films at this time, the ending is also like, how many of those movies end with like, and now her spirit will be at peace in this videotape, like whatever it is.
I like when it cuts back to the room that Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins are in.
Right.
And they're like looking at the monitor of Japan, and he's like looking.
The little girls?
Yeah, Richard Jenkins is like looking at each girl and like, fuck you, fuck you,
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Because now they're like the last line of defense between literal destruction of the earth and the gods or whatever. So
hey, you know what America's good at? Killing people for no reason. So they go back to watching them in the Winnebago, and they're like, man, that stoner guy that we just killed, I don't know what he had. He had an extra stash because like we treated all his pot and it didn't fucking matter. Like he was somehow outsmarting us. He almost like made us basically.
Yeah, we come to find out that the pot he's smoking like makes him impervious to the chemicals they're spraying on him or whatever.
PCP.
Last I heard, weed and PCP don't cancel each other out.
No. It just makes him impervious.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's no cave-in where they're supposed to be, so they're frantically calling. They get the cave-in to happen, which means the Winnebago, and it caves in while they're in the tunnel, so the Winnebago backs its way out.
It is a pretty tense moment. Like Chris Hemsworth is like sticking his head out the window, trying to drive backwards out of this cave because they don't want to get crushed by it as it collapses, right? Mm-hmm. And they barely make it out. It's great.
They barely make it out, but they do. And they realize that they're on the other side of a crevasse and they need to basically get to the other side.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth's like, I bet I can make it on my dirt bike. And they're like, you absolutely can. Don't hold back, man. Like,
well, yeah, if someone else is volunteering, you got to hype him up.
They hype him up and he like backs up. He goes full force at it. And honestly, had there not been the wall, it looks like he might have made it. But he hits that force field so hard.
It's so funny,
instantly
man.
dies.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me. Like, and then at this point, they're just like, what the fuck did he hit? Like, what? Oh my God. So they get back in the Winnebago and Holden is not getting it. Like, Dana has now figured, she's like, oh my God, puppeteers, like, we can't get out. We are trapped. And Holden's like, no, we're just going to drive until we can't. And she's like, you don't like, they are going to prevent us from leaving, clearly.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm okay. I need you to get calm. We got to stick together. And as he starts to say together, that's when the sickle goes through his throat.
Yeah.
And he's just like, whoa! And she screams and they crash the Winnebago down into the lake below. She swims up through the sunroof and pushes her way out. The zombie grabs her foot, but she manages to swim away. She gets onto the dock and back in the control room, they're like, perfect.
Yeah.
We won. Let's drink. Party time. And the security guy's like, well, she's still alive. And they're like, no. She's optional as long as she suffers. And he's like, this is weird, but sure.
It would be weird. I do love how throughout this whole like party scene, it's like they're like drinking, everyone's having a good time. They're like, like it's like that sort of vibe. And then on the monitors all around the room, it's like her fighting with this last zombie on the dock, and it's like a brutal fight.
Oh, she's getting the shit beat out of her.
Yeah,
at one point
so
she just
funny.
like barfs up a ton of blood.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
Like, she is fighting for her life and they're not even paying attention, and it's so funny to me.
They're not even paying attention. And in fact, Bradley Whitford's like, oh, this would have been cooler with Merman. Like, and everyone's partying until he basically hears, he's talking to the guys who were responsible for the cave-in. And they're like, yeah, man, there was some glitch from, like the chairman. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? And as he's kind of putting two and two together, the phone rings and he's like, no, it's impossible. We killed everybody. And they're like, one's still alive. And as they turn to watch her on the dock, they see Marty come to the rescue, where he again uses the bong to wrap that chain around it and knocks the zombie into the water. He pops back out.
Well, he doesn't knock into the water. He grabs the claw thing away and she rips up a board and hits the zombie into the water.
And uses that to knock him in the water. They run through the woods back to the cabin, but before getting to the cabin, he jumps down into a grave and he's like, come on, follow me, because he has found an elevator that he is trying to hotwire because he thinks he can make it go down. But there's also just a pile of dismembered dude right there.
Yeah. I do love that, like, the elevator down into hell is at the bottom of a grave. Like, that to me is also very funny.
It's great. I also loved that, like, the pile of zombie, he's like, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. And I was like, oh my God, like, that would take forever. I don't even like gardening with one. Anyway, they get in the elevator and they do manage to get it to come down.
Yeah.
But this is where they start to realize, they're like, they sent them up here to get us. Like, what is down here? And they end up in the elevator with a zombie arm that's still moving.
So funny.
But this is where they realize that the elevator walls are clear. And it's like a turning cube, like cube hypercube.
Wonkavator. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a Wonkavator, not an elevator, right? Because it goes in all different directions, to feed that little torture cave they've built, whatever monster they select, right?
Right. And so she sees some of the other monsters. And at first, they're actually, the first couple are in the order that they are on the board, because she sees a werewolf and then a wraith.
Yeah.
But then we get like the tooth ballerina and then Fornicus, the lord of bondage and pain. And this is where she realizes, like, we chose.
Yeah.
When we were in the cellar, because she recognizes his like puzzle sphere. And as they move, they see other monsters. And she's just like, oh my God, like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Now, in the control room, they have realized what's going on and they have to kill him. They're like, okay, which one? 3606? Bring them down. Shoot him first. They step out of the elevator and the zombie arm kind of grabs his foot. He shoots at the zombie instead. The zombie arm, like, they kind of like knock him out and the zombie arm crawls as if it's going to like take over his face.
Yeah.
And as they leave, they're like, good work, zombie arm, which is very fun.
I wanted them to high five it. Like, pick it up, high five it, put it back down.
Yeah, put it back down. But they hear an overhead message, which we will find out is Sigourney Weaver. But it's basically like, I'm sure that you are in pain and confused, but here's what's up. They're super terrible monsters and you guys need to die. So like, the sooner you get it over with, the sooner we can all go home. Like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
So they barricade themselves in a security booth that seems to be kind of bulletproof. And inside it, there is a button that says System Purge. And so they hit it, which frees all of the monsters. And I just love that, like, the elevators ding.
Why does that button exist?
Exactly.
Just to fuck with the script. Like, literally just to be like, all right, third act, these are Chekhov's wraiths. They're coming to, like, Chekhov's merman is about to come. Like, the ding of the elevator and then just the instant blood mist is so funny to me.
It is great.
I do think the CGI is not aging as well as I would have hoped.
But it's still not terrible.
It's not terrible.
Like, but some of the ones, because there's ones that are not even on the list. Like, we see everything that was on the list. We see, Dragon Bat and everything. But then we also see there's like a robot that just has saw arms.
Yeah, it honestly looks like a battle bot, but like a 3 times bigger than a regular battle bot. Yeah.
There's one that's like, it's like an evil fairy. There's so many. In just to burn a fun fact, there were 60 different monsters that they created for this. But
that's crazy.
And so they are just watching this all happen until literally the security booth is coated in blood. The shot of that lobby and how much blood is so funny to me. Like, it's so much blood. Like, you know how we laughed in Friday the 13th 6 when it was like 4 people's worth of blood in that one room?
Absolutely.
This is like 4 shining elevators worth of blood in this elevator lobby. And it is madness. So Dragon Bat breaks through the window. So now they got to get out. So they run and watch as it's like a zombie. There's like zombies at the end of the hall. Dragon Bat pushes somebody through a hole in the wall and then drags him off down the hall. They climb through that hole in the wall. We then watch as an evil clown stabs a bunch of people and a unicorn just gores somebody with his horn.
I love that. I don't know of any unicorn horror IP, but I want there to be one.
I do know that after this movie came out, that somebody made unicorn action figures. And so at one point, somewhere in my like boxes of craziness in my closet, I have a unicorn action figure that comes with a man that you can impale on the horn.
Oh, that's amazing.
Are My Little Ponies unicorns?
No, they're ponies.
They're just ponies.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Anyway, the elevator dings and the Buckners are back.
Yeah.
This is where we see in the control room, somebody's trying to break through the vault. They finally do, and it is the Scarecrow folk.
Yeah.
They tackle the security guy. He detonates a grenade to kill all of them.
I mean, they were like ripping him apart. Like he sacrifices himself, but he was not going to survive, you know?
No. And Hadley, who is Bradley Whitford, is thrown clear.
Yeah.
As he comes to out of the mist, who does he see but Merman? And he just goes like, oh, really? He gets attacked. And of course, Merman just blows blood out of his blowhole.
Which is why they're a nightmare to clean up after, guys.
I know it's both one of the most horrifying and funniest things in this movie for me.
It is. It's so good.
We see the other girl that's been kind of working with them snagged by a tentacle.
Yeah.
And then Richard Jenkins makes a run for it, only to turn a corner and get stabbed by Dana.
Yeah.
And as he's dying, he just says, please kill him.
Yeah.
For Marty. They don't, but they keep running through the hallways and find themselves in the ritual room where they see all the statues filled with blood. And this is where she kind of makes the connection of like, it's one for each of us. Like we all had to die being punished, but for what? And who should walk in but Ripley? No.
I love that Sigourney Weaver's in this movie, though. I think it's great.
She was their second choice. I do think she's a perfect fit, but their first, do you want to guess who their first choice was?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
No.
Really?
Bruce Campbell.
Oh,
I was thinking about like a final girl who would have been who would have fit that bill. Bruce Campbell would have been amazing though.
Bruce Campbell would have been amazing. But I do like that it is a final girl.
Yeah.
Because that kind of works. That would have worked really well for me if Dana had replaced her.
Yes.
If that's how that had ended. But
and that I think would have been a much more enjoyable ending, at least for me.
personally.
yes.
If that's what had happened, this would be one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. But she basically explains it's different in every culture. It requires youth. And in our culture, it's this. And she's basically like, you all suffer and die at the horror that you chose. And then you, the last one, live or die as fate decides. But we got to kill that guy or else the monsters rise. And you got 8 minutes till sunrise.
So get to killing him.
Get to killing. And she raises the gun, but can't do it. And he sees the werewolf behind her and lets her get attacked.
Well, I mean, she does have a gun on him. I mean,
she does. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, she hesitates to kill him. He doesn't hesitate at all. Like, he would have gladly killed her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He does not care.
That's why I'm like, no, I would have shot this guy.
But here's how you quote unquote fix the movie to where you get the ending that you like, Paige. He, even though she's pointing a gun at him, pushes her out of the way to like
Gets killed by a werewolf.
and then gets killed by the werewolf, and that it redeems him and appeases the gods, right?
I want her to go bad though.
No, see, okay, here's what I want. Here's my perfect ending. Because the only reason she has the gun at all is because he gave it to her in the hallway.
Yeah.
So if he never gives it to her, if he has the gun and he's trying to like use her as leverage, like what if I shoot her and she sees the werewolf behind him?
Yeah, love
and
that
the werewolf attacks him, and now it's her and Ripley's like, great, now you got to help me contain the monsters, but now you know too much, so now I'm passing this to you.
This movie does sort of rob us of the final girl fighting her way to survive, you know? Like the trope that we get in these movies. I mean, that does fully happen in this movie. We just don't see it because we're watching the party, right?
Well, yeah, she needed a man to help her with that.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I'm not joking. I think that's what Joss is saying in this movie on a level, right? Because the stoner allegory guy does come in and save her.
Yeah.
I mean, they all end up dying anyway, and so does the whole world, so I guess it doesn't matter, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked for her to him kill Ripley or her kill Ripley, and then her kill him to save the world. Then you find out that Ripley was the last final girl who survived. That's why they made her director.
I would love to find out that the director is always one of the final girls.
Yeah.
Like for some reason, I do kind of love that cyclical nature of it.
But I do hate that this movie robbed us of one of the biggest tropes of slashers, which is the final girl. Like, I mean, even if it was just Dana going through everything in the elevator by herself, fighting through all that, like that would have been a cool way to capture that moment too. Like, I don't necessarily think we need the stoner to live, like, at all.
I don't think we do either. Yeah. I think it muddies it up.
Let her save herself.
Honestly, though,
yeah,
I would love if he just dies, and that's not the issue. But the issue is because she can live or die, and she stumbles upon the elevator.
Right.
Like, I don't need him in the last act.
Right.
I really don't.
I mean, if Diablo Cody wrote this movie, that's the version we would have got, probably.
Well, if Diablo Cody wrote this movie, the dialogue would be very different.
I mean, yeah. But you know
it'd
what
be
I mean.
a little bonkers. Don't get me wrong. Love her. Read her stripper book. But it would be bonkers. It
yeah.
would be crazy.
Yeah.
But her powering through to get to Sigourney Weaver, to get an explanation, is equally as powerful of an ending for me.
Same.
Anyway, so the little Buckner girl with an axe comes in as she's being mauled by a werewolf. The little Buckner girl axes Sigourney Weaver in the back. The stoner guy, Marty, kicks her over the edge into the pit of the gods.
Yeah. Well, her and the little zombie girl.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, I was like, the zombie girl should attack one of the people that she was summoned to attack.
Yeah, I think they're just attacking everything now.
Well, and all the monsters are just attacking everything. Like
Everything.
So I think that holds, right? And
It could have been any monster, really.
And Sigourney Weaver and Marty are like fighting over the gun, and it just so happens that Sigourney Weaver's on top when Zombie
Right.
Girl gets there with the axe. I fully believe that if Marty was on top, he would have gotten it.
He moves her, yeah.
Yeah, he had the upper hand and gives it up to use her as a human shield. He's a shitty person.
Well, I mean, he's fighting for his life. Like,
But here's the thing, he's not. He's going to die anyway if
He's
doesn't
fighting
die.
to murder all of us.
I'm not
Yeah.
defending his decision. I just say if I was in that situation, I understand why he rolled like that and did that. I still think he's a shitty dude because he didn't sacrifice himself to save all of humanity, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, he shoots the werewolf. So then they basically just sit down on the steps and he's like, hey, and she's like, I don't even think Kurt has a cousin. He's like, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you about the werewolf. She's like, I'm sorry, I almost shot you. And he's like, or he says, I'm sorry I let you get attacked by a werewolf and then ended the world.
Yeah.
But then she completely flips because it is not really within her character or what we've known of her in this movie to not care about the world. She strikes me as a character who would care, and if the roles were reversed, would have probably sacrificed herself. But she basically is just like, fuck humans, it's time to give somebody else a chance. And it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not really consistent with her character.
Yeah.
But I do love the next section where they're like, man, giant evil gods. I wish I could have seen them, That would have been a fun weekend. And I do think that's actually a really funny, like, kind of linchpin on it.
Yeah.
But they hold hands as everything collapses around them. We watch as a giant god hand shoots up through the room and through the cabin above them. And that's the movie.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie a few times, what do you guys think about Cabin in the Woods?
I am still lukewarm on the ending, but not as angry as I was the first time.
Yeah. I still love the movie. I think it's really great.
It's a fun watch.
It is like a love letter to horror fans. And
Yeah,
that's
for
great.
sure.
I love that. I think it's a very well executed movie. I just don't love the way it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ending to me feels a little bit of like an Etch-a-Sketch. Like, I don't know how to fix it. Whatever. Just everyone dies.
Just shake it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they Monty Python the ending.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, though, I think it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, same. I loved it when it came out for the first couple years, and then like hasn't had the lasting power for me that other films have.
I haven't watched it since we watched it for the pod the first time, Mikey, but I mean, if someone else wanted to watch it and I was over, I would definitely watch it, but I wouldn't go watch it myself.
If I'm watching a cabin in the woods and it's a horror comedy, I'm watching Tucker and Dale.
Absolutely, because it reminds me of our relationship, Mikey. So, Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts. Cabin fun facts.
So much of Drew Goddard, who directed and co-wrote this, much of his inspiration for the movie comes from his upbringing in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which has a considerable science and government job hub, kind of. That's where that's where the Manhattan Project happened. That's where they built the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And so he kind of wanted to write something that evoked this idea of coworkers just going about their day-to-day business and living routine lives, even though they're building things that would end the world.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a really interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So they wrote the script in 3 days, he and Joss Whedon, after locking themselves in a hotel room, because they had both come off failed projects. They had some time off, and they wrote almost the entire script in that weekend.
That's great, man.
It's one of those things where if you want to write a screenplay and you have already outlined a bunch of stuff, because the preparation part is key. If you have the time and the ability to do something like that, it can be very, very good for your writing because it removes a lot of distractions.
Yeah.
But it's tough to pull off. Busy people.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so when she kisses the wolf head on the wall, they actually covered the wolf's tongue in powdered sugar to make it look dusty, but to make it look tasty, like actually taste good for her. The tongue is made out of silicone.
Okay.
Food grade silicone. So
Okay.
she was fine, but you still shouldn't kiss taxidermy.
No, it is gross. And I also I remember the first time watching this, I was very afraid that it was going to come to life and bite her face.
Well, because you were thinking it was going to be Evil Dead, where the deer comes to life.
Yes. So I mean, I wasn't scared this time, but I remember being very creeped out the first time I watched this movie because of that.
So originally this movie was produced by MGM. Something interesting happens after production. We'll get into it in just a second. But while they were making this movie, MGM saw dailies from a scene where Chris Hemsworth instructs his friends on what to do, where he's telling them to get in the Winnebago. And they signed him for Red Dawn, no audition, just based on that scene.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Okay.
But what they didn't know is that he would also already auditioned for Thor. So 2 days later, he got the call to be Thor.
God, what a good year for him.
Yeah. So they actually filmed and finished filming Red Dawn and Cabin in the Woods before Thor was finished. But MGM went bankrupt. So neither of those movies were able to be released. They kind of just sat on the shelf until Thor came out and Lionsgate basically bought the distribution rights to release them so that they could bank on the success of Thor. So there you go. That's how this movie ends up coming out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In the end, where it's melee, blood everywhere, they cut to a screen with Ronald the intern holding up a sign. And unfortunately, they were unable to get a clear shot of the sign. I will tell you why in just a second, because it is a camera issue. But the sign, which is unreadable, said, "Help me, I'm in the utility closet. A dragon bat has my scent. I'm Ronald the intern." And the fact that he identifies himself in it made me laugh really hard.
That is very funny.
They tried to zoom in to see it, but they couldn't. Part of the reason why they couldn't is because this film did not have a budget for green screen. So all of the video clips in the control room had to be synced manually.
What?
Yes.
That is insane, Paige.
Yes, which means they had to film everything that appears on those screens first and then shoot the control room and sync all those screens so they could react to them. Now, if we were doing this today, we would just do it with green screen and then just pop it in later.
I could do that.
Yeah. And here's the thing, this is, 11 years in the future, 12 years in the future, where your average Twitch streamer could do it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it would have been such a big undertaking to green screen that much of the room. They couldn't do it. So
Jesus.
I know. So when Lionsgate saw this film, they didn't understand initially why MGM had shelved it, but it was because MGM originally wanted to convert it to 3D, which would have been incredibly expensive, and Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard didn't want that to happen. They wanted it in 2D. And so they had basically gotten into a fight with the studio. Then the studio went bankrupt. So when Lionsgate picked it up, they were like, we'll just put this out in 2D. It's fine in 2D. And so they did, and it ends up being wildly successful. It might have saved MGM had they just released it when they had it.
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah. This was Drew Goddard's directorial debut. His first day as a director was the Harbinger scene, which they arrived that morning and everything was covered in snow. So they had to spend hours blowing the snow away before they could film.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
It does suck. The Latin that Dana reads from the diary is dolor supervivo caro, dolor sublimus caro, dolor ignio animus, which means pain outlives the flesh, pain raises the flesh, and pain ignites the spirit.
Okay.
Fran Kranz, who plays Marty, received a 2-hour joint rolling session and a separate bong lighting session from expert consultants.
That sounds like they wanted to pay their dealers to be on set.
I think so too, because they also include a ton of other paraphernalia in the film, including his stash, his secret stash, a small pipe, a tulip joint, a joint in the pocket of his pants. The prop crew even designed the film's own brand of rolling papers, Smiling Buddha papers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. The floating head monster, which is just a disembodied floating head, was played by the movie's special effects makeup artist, David Leroy Anderson, who happens to be married to Heather Langenkamp, who also worked doing some of the makeup on this film. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that she started a makeup effects company after she did all those movies. Yeah, that's awesome.
So those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you so much for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you guys think the production budget was for this movie? It came out in 2012. So what do you think it was in 2012?
I mean, there is a fair amount of post-prod effects, but there's also budgetary things like the green screen that make me think it's like not as much as you would imagine.
I'm going to say 22.
Okay, Mikey. Paige, what do you think?
15.
It's actually $30 million. So
holy shit. It looks good for 30 mil.
I think it does look good for 30 mil, but if you adjust for inflation, that's actually like right around $38.2 million today. This movie came out on April 13th, a Friday the 13th in 2012.
Nice.
It was third in the movie theaters that weekend. It was beat by the number 1 movie, The Hunger Games. Number 2 was The Three Stooges. Number 3, of course, was Cabin in the Woods. Number 4 was Titanic in 3D. And number 5 was American Reunion. So how much money do you think Cabin in the Woods made in its opening weekend? And again, it was the weekend of Friday the 13th, April 2012.
Now, here's the weird thing. Part of the marketing around this movie when it came out was that it had been shelved for 3 years, or people said 3 years. It was not that long. But like people were like, oh, this has been shelved for forever and it's supposedly really good. And they finally released it. That was like the buzz around the movie.
Right.
But it was kind of a slow burn. So I'm going to say 12.
Okay.
I'm going to say 15.
Mikey, you're closer. It was $14.7 million in its opening weekend. It was then in theaters for 12 more weeks, a total of 13 weeks, and it was never again in the top 5. But what do you think it made in its initial 13-week run domestically?
I'm going to say 45.
Okay. Mikey, do you want to take a
Say
guess?
35.
Paige, you're way closer. It was $42 million in its box office run domestically. Internationally, it made 28.6 for a total of $70.6 million. And if you adjust that for inflation, that's right around $90 million today, just in the box office alone. In the home market, just the DVD and Blu-ray sales, not streaming rights or any of that stuff, just DVD and Blu-ray sales, they made an additional $14.7 million. So this movie, if you adjust for inflation, made probably close to $115 million adjusted for inflation on roughly a $38 million budget. Again, adjusted for inflation because the initial budget in 2012 was $30 million. But that's your box office.
Well, let's do scary scale.
Yeah, hit him with that scary scale.
I'm trying some pizzazz. Sorry.
I like it.
That's a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found the film when we watched it today. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters. Our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Paige.
Oh, that's a 1 for me.
Toddington.
I'm going to give it a 3 because some of the jump scares still got me.
I'll give it a 2 because I did actually fall victim to one of the jump scares.
Which one got you, Mikey?
The RV one. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Then that's our scary scale.
All right. So this week, we're actually ending Revisited month. And I'm going to say, just based on downloads alone, this was a very successful month. So we'll probably do another Revisited month sometime in the future because apparently the listeners have enjoyed it. But we are leaving Revisited month. So what are we watching next week as we re-enter doing new movies for new episodes?
Yes, it is February, so it is Black Horror Month, and we are going to start with something newer, a newer release, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Oh, cool. I've actually seen quite a bit online about this, although I know nothing about the plot. I just saw a lot of people talking about it. So, cool.
And again, just because, you as our listeners will get to vote at the end of the month for a listener request, we are looking for films that either have strong Black leads, strong Black performances, or were directed and written by Black creators.
Yeah.
That's what we go for Black Horror Month.
So your homework next week is to watch or rewatch Bodies, 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 and then check back for that episode on Monday.
Yay.
So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
Yeah.
Well, whose review are you going to read this week?
Bejeweler 9.
Okay.
Horror and humor fans must listen.
Oh, why, thank you. I agree.
They say, Mikey, Todd, and Paige have such a great chemistry and friendship, it makes their reviews even better with long-running jokes.
I do love the bits that we continue from episode to episode.
They each bring a different perspective and insight into the movies they review. I started out being a horror virgin, but now I am a true horror fan, watching the movies before I listen to their episodes. Highly recommend to horror virgins and fanatics alike. 5 freaking stars.
Well, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want to Mikey read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear this power throuple on another movie review show about romance and romantic comedies, check out Romancing the Pod, where Mikey, Paige, and I break down and make fun of romantic movies. It's a lot of fun, guys. Check it out. If you want to follow us on social, please do. We are at Horror Virgin or online at horrorvirgin.com. If you want to follow us all individually, you can do that as well. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Twitter, or Rampage Wesley everywhere else, including TikTok. Mikey is at mrandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome. If you like the show so much and you want to help financially support it, please do by going to patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where you can get a lot of great levels and a lot of great stuff like bonus episodes, director's cut episodes where they're a little bit longer and you get them actually a day earlier than the regular feed drop. We do a lot of great things like listener requests and stuff like that. So guys, check out the Patreon and help support the show.
If you want to financially support me, but not Todd, just look me up on Venmo.
If you can't financially support the show, that's understandable. That's fine. But if you want to hang out with us on the daily, join the Facebook group at facebook.com/group/horrorvirgin. We also link it like once a week. So just find it there and join the awesome Facebook group. Literally, we're in there talking every day. It's awesome. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out our Twitch stream, we're at twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, where we will be playing horror video games. So if you have always wondered what it would be like to watch me get scared, you can now do that on Twitch while I play these horror games. It's twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, guys. Check it out. It's a lot of fun for you. Not a lot of fun for me. And if you haven't noticed, since October 1st, we have been running the new Horror Virgin blog. And when I say we, I really mean Katie from the Facebook group. She's been running everything. She's like the managing editor of the Horror Virgin blog. So if you haven't been to our Horror Virgin blog, go check it out. It's at horrorvirgin.com/blog. You'll see it. It's awesome. There's a lot of great articles. I mean, at the end of October, we have 31 awesome articles up, and they will continue after October, not on a daily schedule, though. That's just too much for Katie to handle. But check out our awesome Horror Virgin blog up now. This episode was brought to you by Tia, and Tia's teenager's been driving her crazy. So how is Tia's teenager driving her crazy this week?
Tia's teenager keeps voting for Merman, and
Merman never wins, so maybe
Never
stop
wins.
doing that. Well, I'm sorry you're never going to win that pool, Tia, but your teenager is always picking the wrong one. This episode also brought to you by Jonathan. Jonathan wants me to show you guys some videos. So this week, I'm going to show you the video he sent me right now. This is a video that shows a cute baby that says, "Would you slap him for $20 trillion? And I'll say, yes, I would slap a baby for $20 trillion. It doesn't say how hard I have to slap him, but I
only have to do it once, right?
Yeah.
Because for $20 trillion, that kid could be set up for life.
I mean, 20 trillion is so much money.
I'd put away $80 million if I had $20 trillion for this kid's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's watch the video.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this guy who's
Exactly.
reacting to that is right on.
I'm still doing it.
Oh yeah, I'd still hit the dude for $20 billion. I call him a dude now.
Yeah.
I'm aging up the baby, the more likely I am to actually hit him.
Yeah.
I'd do it for $20 million.
Yeah.
I'd smack that baby for 20 grand. I would. Again, Paige, it doesn't say how hard you have to hit him.
That's true. It doesn't tell me how hard.
You just slap it hard.
If I have to slap him hard, Mikey, I wouldn't do it for 20,000.
Yeah.
If I had to permanently, maybe not permanently, but hurt the baby, I'm out. I couldn't do that. I mean, I could for $22 billion or whatever we offer in the first time.
We can buy it plastic surgery for $22 billion.
Yeah, I could give it a good quality of life
Yeah.
after a good Hayukin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, Jonathan, thank you so much for that video. That very conversationally provoking video. And thank you so much for the support. We now return you to another newly revamped episode of The Patreonicals.
Welcome back. Where I know where I want to go. I just need to know how I get there.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the time-traveling boat that is the Santa Maria can get us anywhere we need to go, baby.
Yep.
It's true. So, on the Santa Maria,
of course,
there's the time device they've slowly built over the last lots of episodes.
Right. They've been doing it behind the scenes. It's something that Mikey and I have talked about, but I had to cut it every episode.
No, I've mentioned it.
Because it's, okay. You definitely did mention it.
Mr. Ragebomb puts his blow-up energy. Anyway, they pushed the fucking button, right?
Oh, actually, you did talk about Mr. Ragebomb blowing his energy into this time device. You're right. I remember that very perverse episode.
They press it, and then
they squeeze him like he's an olive.
There's a big flash, and they're removed from the timeline completely.
What? They step outside the curve?
They find themselves in space, like deep space.
Like Deep Space Nine?
No.
Oh, okay.
Deep Space Nina. That's where the Santa Maria reconnects with the other ship.
Santa Maria appears, but it's not spaced out, right? So, like, shit's getting real. So, bam. Okay,
You gotta stop world building and start putting in characters.
Unless you want to jump to a different time period.
No, I love it.
Okay.
I love that we currently have the Santa Maria. That is a Columbus era boat in space. Everyone on the boat would be dead immediately.
Yes.
Sophia, the time cop, Anthony, and Jennifer with a PH are like appeared outside the Santa Maria, but they've got their time suits on, which I did mention, but they have time spacesuits themes. And they're like, holy shit. And none of their time equipment works. They're like, they're fucked.
Because they're outside time.
Uh-huh. And they're like, Jennifer PH, these are your people that you spied on. What are they doing? She's like, son of a bitch.
They did it. They broke the finite curve.
And then Kate, she puts up a fuck. Okay.
I wish I could leave in like your creative grunts. Fuck.
She creates a psychic bubble. And they are like, her and Amy's like, still a fucking astronaut. This is my turf.
Yeah.
And Karun is like, are we in deep space? He's so excited.
Oh, yeah, I forgot because he actually is an alien. He's blue.
We've got to convert the Santa Maria into a spaceship.
Well, yeah, because Kate can only make you psychically be able to survive in space for so long.
She's like, oh my God, we got to like do better. So Isaac, who way back in the day is an evil scientist, he starts like going to making oxygen creator shit. And then Kate's holding the bubble up. Karun is crying tears of joy for being off Earth finally. Scott made of the thing is smiling because he's like weightless and he's like so big.
He's like, finally, these rocks aren't weighing me down.
Yeah.
I like, in my mind, he's very much like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh for no reason.
Yes. Danielle, Aaron, and Libby have turned back into Mun people, but they still kept all their creepily long fingers. So
wait, are they going to be like grays eventually? They're going to slowly turn into grays?
That's what they are now. They're that now.
Okay. All right.
Oh, all right.
Is the moon still gone? Like they've lost their home too? They're dispossessed moon
But they're so far from Earth now that it doesn't even matter.
Oh, okay. So like, okay.
Well, yeah. Now they're like, we should reclone all of our people. And Wes, who's super handsome now.
They're like, let's use Wes's DNA so that all of our new clones are like Dorian Gray levels of hot.
Yeah, because Wes is like, he's like using a wrench to like close something on the Santa Maria and he's like sweaty. He's got his shirt off.
Yeah, he's like the Chippendale dancers from the new Kumail Nanjiani Welcome to Chippendale show, which is pretty fucking solid. I'm not going to lie.
He's got his Hawaiian rolls out. Driscoll, who's an evil genius, he gets with Boise and Cody and Amy, and they're like, we got to build this ship. So he's like, I've got some ideas. So they all come up together. They got a little bit of Florida because he's like, we need strong Florida man and pawn shop energy from you two because we only have a couple things to work with to make a huge spaceship. And so
I feel like Florida man energy and pawn shop energy is not the same, but very similar. Like they're at least
it's a Venn
inbred
diagram.
cousins.
They usually they're best friends canonically.
That makes sense. Yes.
So, Nathan, the professional wrestler, he is like carrying stuff for people. Allie, the mermaid, is
She's a mermaiden. Hello.
She's using her fin to like move stuff. It's just very complicated. I don't have time to explain it. Anyway,
it's really in depth and world building, but like Mikey's too busy of a man to have to like go to explain it. You guys get it.
I leave it to the imagination. This is like a radio show. Drink your Ovaltine. Anyway, so basically the idea they come up with is Shining Donut has merged with the Santa Maria to make a donut Santa Maria spaceship.
Oh my God, I love this.
And it's a giant Boston creamy looking Santa Maria together spaceship.
That sounds delicious. I'd eat that.
Yeah. Mr. Rage Bomb has to rage bomb into the generator to make energy to make the ship go, like to power the systems.
That sounds vaguely sexual.
Yeah.
It's like a rage bomb, not like a sex bomb.
What is an orgasm if not a bomb of some sort of pent up
Rage?
rage?
Okay, we're going to need to get you checked out.
You know what? I heard it as I was saying it. I'd like to apologize.
Garotica, the heavy metal bitch, is like, I'm also technically from space, and like I've called my pterodactyl to join us.
Hell yes. It's about time we got a dactyl.
And it breathes in space, so it lands on one of the boat things.
A fucking course. The heavy metal pterodactyl breathes in space.
This is a lot of world building for the next how many episodes, but we're going to get there. So anyway, Jeremy the laser eyes is the engines. If he shoots his laser eyes out, it makes the ship go forward, but they need a jump drive. So they're trying to work on that. And Bruder, of course, is elected captain by everyone.
Unanimously elected captain of the Donut Santa Maria time spaceship capsule thing.
Yes.
Nice.
Wolfric is always in werewolf form because there's so many moons in space.
Oh, yeah. You're never not around a moon.
Yeah. So he's always a werewolf now. Vance, H.H. Holmes serial killer. He murders Dave. Dave takes one for the team because he needs to get his impulse, you know.
Yeah, he needs to get his wolf man rocks off. Yeah.
Yeah. So another little spaceship comes and docks with the spaceship, and she's like, I'm friendly. And she gets out, and she's a blue alien too, like Karun.
Oh my God.
What?
And she's like, you're one of my people, or our people. And she's like, where have you been? And
he's like, what do you mean our people?
He's like, not only is my skin blue, so is my mood because Earth sucks. And then she's like, I'm lost too. We have to find our home.
I am sensing where this is all leading, and I am here for a Karun backstory storyline.
And Captain Bruder was like, bring those time fuckers into the ship. We can't just leave them out here. We're better. We're better than that. And then Kate finally passes out because she was like, man, I'm tired. And then so they come on board, and Lauren, the cave person, hits Anthony and Sophia on the head, knocks them unconscious with their caveman club. And then Alex, the magician, tries to do a lame trick, but like the coin floats up.
He's like, is this your coin? But it like floats up into space. God damn it.
It comes out of his sleeve or whatever. And everybody's like, God, magicians are so lame. Who would be sexually attracted to them at all?
I'm not.
Well, no one said you were, Paige. Why are you talking?
You constantly say
protest so much. You've fallen into my trap. It's a classical error.
I do love that Mikey sort of has created a trap for you because, and Paige, I don't recollect you ever saying you found magicians attractive.
I didn't. I literally never did.
But Mikey has been saying it so long that he believes it.
And everyone else, do you know how many people send me weird shit about magicians? So many.
Because when you defend yourself, you do sound sort of guilty as fuck.
Tell her it's from me.
Hey, Mikey told me to send you this.
And that's it for this week.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait till next week to see how this new blue lady mixes things up with Karun on another episode of The Patreonicals.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ookie spooky.
Yeah.
Have an amazing week.
Bye. This movie had Thor before he was Thor, nerds.